Hi, welcome to another video development tip. Today we're going to look at an ASP.NET Core 2.2 app and talking about how we configure our services and we run our app and how we can do things in between the configuration and running it. So what we have here is just a basic 2.2 app, and inside startup we haven't done anything yet, our site program, and inside startup all we did was we added a DB context, and we're going to use an in-memory database for this. And then I also did a configure warnings. This was in the first video development tip, so if you're kind of curious about that, go check that out. Other things we have is just a basic context with one table, and then we have an initializer that we just see the database with 3 people. So a pretty simple app. But what we're going to look at start off is our ability to separate out the build and run. So if we look at what build returns, you will see it returns a iWeb host. So what I'm going to show first is that the different stages it hits in startup based on what's called. So what should happen is we hit this breakpoint first, we'll go to the build, and we're going to be in configuring services. After that, it'll hit the run right here on line 22 with the breakpoint, and then we should hit the breakpoint in the configure. So what I want to show is this little gray area right in between these build and run and what we can do there. So first we'll just show that. So we're going to start in debug mode, and we should hit the breakpoint on the build right away. There we go. So now we should be in configure services. As you can see, we hit configure services where we're going to do our DB context and add MVC. Next, we should hit our run. All right, as you can see, we hit our run. So after that, we should hit the configure where we do our, exception page and use our uses pretty much. So now showing that, we can start adding things that happen in between the build and run. One of the favorite things I like doing here is if we're seeding a database or running data migrations, I'll do it here because I want that to happen after we do our configure services before the API is publicly available, which is a great spot to do. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to use a host and we're going to create a scope. So using the scope, we are going to do host.services on the service provider, and we're going to do a get service. The service I want to grab for here is the example DB context. And we're going to use that to initialize our database. So what I need to do is, I don't want to actually get service here yet. I want to create a scope first. And then here we're going to use that scope to grab our context. All right, here, if we look at our initializer, it's just a static function that takes in the context and makes sure there's nothing already in the database, and then adds 3 new people to it. So what we need to do is we need to do an example DB initializer dot initialize and pass our context in. All right, so now with this, we should see that before our app starts listening for our request, we should see that the database has been initialized. So let's start that and watch the output. So it's building right now, and now it's built and running in debug mode. You should see our standard logging, and so now we're listening to port 5000, but if you see before that, we have stored 3 entities in our in-memory store. So before our app was even running, and before we could hit it publicly, we initialize our database. Other things you can do here, you can grab your logger, and if I want to do that, I could just also grab my logger and do scope.serviceprovider.get service ilogger of program. And what we can do is let's say we put a try around this, not the cleanest code here, but we're saying go with it for this example. And We want to catch an exception. We can do log critical because we were unable to start a website right here, and we'll say site fail. And if we go into our startup right here, let's throw new exception, say exception example. Now what we should see is that exception gets caught and we actually get a log of it now. So let's watch our console output again. There we go. Now we were able to catch that log and display it. So if we ran that again with a breakpoint right here, you can see that we hit this with that breakpoint. So what that power that does is if you ever have problems in startup, you'll be able to catch it a lot easier and have a log of it, especially if you log into a file or to, some other provider. This would be pretty powerful. I do not suggest doing it with the Git service. I would suggest, maybe I'll do another video on this, is actually running your configuration in program so you can configure your logger before you even get into your build. So doing a lot of this, what you would do if you're in configuration earlier on. Well, that's my tip today. So leave any feedback, any questions for it, and I'll try to answer any of your questions. Thanks for watching.